Help you?
Yes, could you tell me when would you be talking more about UFOs?
UFOs in general?
Yes.
The other cases that are around? It'll probably be in March or April, somewhere along there.
Okay.
All right.
And how will I get to know? You'll tell it in your show, right?
Excuse me?
You'll say it in your show.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to know that.
All
and
right.
If you can, you'll say something about in general.
Right.
The show.
Yeah. Is there anything in general you'd like to know, though, right now?
Well, I'm not really into that stuff now. I'm kind of a novice right now.
Okay. Well,
I don't really know, so I won't waste your time.
This is one of the most fascinating of all of the cases, Wilfred, if you're interested, so you're invited to stay right along with us, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You betcha. And, Bob, you're on.
Oh, hi, Lee?
Yes.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me too well. I can't hear you too well.
Oh, you're both coming in fine.
Okay. I've had considerable difficulty locating Volume 1. I saw it, I think, around December of 81 for the first time in a bookstore. Never saw it after that, but it piqued my curiosity. I looked for it. I had people looking books in print and microfilm, B. Dalton, that sort of thing. Nobody could find it. I finally, 2 years later, found one defective copy in a bookstore in Thousand Oaks. And I was wondering, is there any type of government, at least interference, or have you been approached by anyone in the government as far as publishing such a remarkable story and photographs?
Okay, I think that's a 2 or 3 part answer there. First of all, Volume 1 is out of print, has been since 81. Let me go back to Volume 1. The reason we published it, Genesis 3 was set up, organized, and everything with the investigators of this case. When we got involved, we found that the expenses of investigating this case in Switzerland became astronomical. We were into 6 figures. Now, that's the most. We've spent more money investigating this case than any, I think, 10 other UFO cases in the history of UFOlogy. So we had to come up with a solution to finance this investigation. And the solution came about through Volume 1. And the investigators set up Genesis 3. We published Volume 1 as an overview of the case. And we felt, well, we'll be lucky if we sell a couple of thousand. Maybe we can offset some of these tremendous expenses. Instead, it became an occult classic. We found that we have no idea.
I'd like to know where mine is. However, the Beamship videotape,
yes,
I think surpasses Volume 1, and it probably will be a classic unto itself as well. Because, Bob, you'll not only get to see the pictures that are in Volume 1, or many of them, but you'll also get to see the movie footage.
That's another thing. I was curious as to why this case, as explicit as it is in its evidence, is not been detailed at all like in the book by Fawcett and Greenwood, Clear Intent.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's even mentioned a word of it in there, even in passing. And it seems so remarkable. It's almost as if I've shown it to people, and they look at me like, that's incredible, but is it for real?
I think one of the reasons is that Larry Fawcett, for instance, just doesn't have the hard evidence at his disposal, so it would be sort of improper for him to make too much comment about it.
Oh. Well, let me ask you this. Volume 2, is it going to be as hard to find as Volume 1 has been?
There are limited quantities left of Volume 2, but if you write the address, it's been given several times on this show.
Go ahead and give it again.
Okay, it's Post Office Drawer JJ, Munns Park, Arizona. Address it to Genesis 3, Roman numeral 3, Munns Park, Arizona, P.O. Box JJ, 86017, and we'll try to find a copy for you. We do have some of those copies left. Now, as I said earlier, we are barred, or I should say, these 2 books are under auction right now from New York, and we cannot reprint them. And the reason we can't is because there's a mainstream book being written as we talk on this case. It'll be out in about 12, 14 months. So, as courtesy to the writer and the publisher, we've agreed not to compete against this book with Volume 1 or 2, so we will be holding it back for 2 or 3 years.
Can you give any clue as to the name or the publisher of this book?
I can't get into that now.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks a lot.
But if you can get Volume 2, you'll be very happy with it. I now keep mine under lock and key.
The one I got is is a publisher's defect. It's a couple of the sections are upside down, but I bought it anyway because it's the only thing I could find after 2 years. And it's somewhat of a collector's item on top of that.
Well, Volume 2 is just as excellent in the picture and the photography. It answers a lot of the questions that were unanswered in Volume 1.
Terrific. Thanks a lot.
All right, Bob.
Bye-bye.
And we have another Bob on the line. Bob, welcome aboard. There you are, Bob.
Yes.
I hit the wrong button.
Yes, hi. I was wondering about this recent flap. About 6 weeks ago, I was outside about 2 a.m., and I saw a flight of 3 oval objects over the San Gabriel Mountains. I live in Pasadena.
Now, this is 3 weeks ago?
About 6 weeks ago. And it was about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, you know, they came right over my house. And what was I doing? Sleeping.
I've never seen anything. They were in absolutely strict formation, perfectly spaced out from each other. There were 3 of them. And they held this formation and skimmed right over Mount Wilson. And you could see them passing in front of portions of the mountain, but actually moving through a cloud layer. There were some scattered clouds.
You say they were oval objects?
They were oval, and they were completely white.
And this was nighttime?
And it was 2 a.m., so yeah, they were illuminated from inside. It looked like street lights almost, but they were flying.
Were they windows or just an orb of light?
The whole shape was lit, was glowing. Very definite oval form. And no sound whatsoever that I could hear at this distance. So they must have been about 2.5 to 3 miles away from me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very strange because I never had seen anything like that before in this area, at least.
Well, there has been an increase in sighting activity in Southern California, Arizona, New Mexico, this area.
And I was wondering also in the films, are there situations where you can see part of the landscape behind the object and portions in front? That's what this situation was like.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I know I've done a lot of films myself with miniatures, and the hardest thing to do is to put a large or a living object like a person or a large moving tree or something like that in front of something that's small. That's where you really get into problems.
Yeah, the perspective, whenever you really start analyzing the perspective of the craft as it moves toward you and then back, you know that you're not dealing with a model.
And also shadows. Do you ever see shadows, interplay of the shadows from the vehicle on the ground or on the people
yes, you do.
In the scene? Because I know that's another area where things can get very difficult.
Well, you know, Bill, if I could interject one thing here, a story we've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but if you ever get a chance to talk to Spielberg, it might be worth asking him this, but when he was shooting Close Encounters, we heard that they had spent a lot of money trying to get a daylight scene that looked real with a UFO, and they finally gave up after a large dollar amount. And that's why in that film, all the scenes are night footage, or at nighttime. And so anyway, at that period of time, this is back, I think it was 78, 79, the studio contacted Mr. Tom Welch. If you ever have Tom on the line, Bill,
yes,
have him tell you the story. But he and Wendell met with the studio heads over there, and they asked one question. They said, hey, we'll pay Meier. We'll pay him 6-7 figures if he'll just tell us how he's doing it. I was sitting in Switzerland at the time with Billy in his living room. The phone rang, and now this is the studio corporate headquarters calling, and Wendell and Tom are there. They're with 3 of the top executives, and the question to me to ask Billy was, how do you do it? I asked him, I said, look, now, Billy, answer this properly because, you can send your kids to Switzerland, to a private Swiss school here with the type of money they're talking about. So just be honest. How do you do it? He thought for a minute, and he said, just tell him it just happens. And that was his answer, so I repeated it to Tom, who repeated it to the executive, and that was the end of that story. But this actually happened. Now, the Spielberg thing, I don't know, but we heard that story.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll find it quite fascinating to look at the footage yourself if you.
Yes, I really would like to, because having shot a lot of this kind of thing with small-scale models, I would have a pretty good idea right away of what I was seeing.
Okay?
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
All right, Bob, thank you very much for your input.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Bill Jenkins. It's Open Mind.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Me. The reason I'm calling is I heard the...
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Oh,